Lions at Lunchtime, Chapter 5. Ha ha. Oh no! No, no, shouted Annie. She raced down the bank until she reached a sandy, clear spot. Here, here, she called, and the wildebeests followed her with their wild eyes. Jack watched in disbelief as the swimmers changed their course. Slowly, all the wildebeests swam to where Annie stood. She waved them in like a traffic police person. Jack grabbed his backpack. Annie, he cried, let's go before we get trampled. Keep it up, she shouted to the wildebeests as she took off after Jack. And they ran farther up the river, away from the incoming wildebeests. Finally, they stopped to catch their breath. They looked back. Everything seemed fine. The wildebeests were scrambling safely over to the riverbank. Soon they would graze on the grass prepared by the zebras. Good work, Jack said to Annie. Thanks, she said. Okay, now for our riddle. No, first we've got to get clean, said Jack. You look like you're in a mud suit. High-pitched laughter rang through the air. It sounded mocking and mean. Jack and Annie turned around. They saw two spotted brown animals standing in the tall grass. The creatures had bodies like dogs, but with sloping backs. They laughed again. Ha ha, said Annie. You don't look so great yourself. What are they? Said Jack. He took out the book. He tried not to get mud on it as he looked for a picture. And when he found it, he read aloud. On the African plains, the hyena is the ruling predator after the lion. It makes a sound similar to a high-pitched human laugh. What's predator mean? Said Annie. It means it catches and eats things, said Jack. Ooh, said Annie. Yuck. The two hyenas laughed again, and they moved closer to Jack and Annie. Quietly, Jack read some more. The hyena has a reputation for being a thief and a coward. Let's see if they're cowards, whispered Annie. Let's try to scare them. The hyenas laughed and moved a little closer. How? Said Jack. Act like a monster, said Annie. Now! And Jack and Annie made terrible monster faces. They put out their hands and rushed at the hyenas. Ah! They shouted. The hyenas yelped and scurried off. Scaredy cats, Annie yelled after them. Come on, said Jack. And Jack and Annie took off in the other direction. They ran around a bend in the river. Jack heard the hyena laughter again. It sounded far away. Good, he said. They're gone. Hey, maybe we can wash over here, said Annie. And she pointed to the edge of the forest. There was a small pond surrounded by tall grass. Zebras were drinking the water. Yeah, said Jack, if it's safe enough for them to drink. The zebras ignored them as they walked towards the pond. When they reached the edge of the pond, Jack set his heavy backpack down in the dry grass. He glanced around. No lions were in sight, but then he heard something. On the far side of the pond, something very big was coming out of the trees. Chapter 6, Spick and Span. Be still, said Jack. Jack and Annie stood frozen as an elephant stepped out of the shadows. It waded into the pond and dipped its trunk into the water. Oh, wow, said Annie. And Jack breathed a sigh of relief. An elephant wasn't going to chase them and eat them. Still, the elephant was huge. Let's sneak away, said Jack. But I want to watch, said Annie. Fine, said Jack. He was tired of Annie getting sidetracked. I'm going to solve the riddle by myself. I'll meet you back at the treehouse. He turned to go. A spray of water rained down on him. It came from behind. He shouted with surprise and looked back. The elephant's trunk was pointing straight at Annie. Cool, she said. He's giving me a shower. The elephant sprayed her again, and then again. The mud slowly rolled off her face, her braids, her t-shirt, her shorts, her legs, and her sneakers. Guess the elephant doesn't like dirty kids, said Annie, laughing, and her eyes were squeezed shut. Finally, she was clean and soaking wet. Your turn, she said to Jack. Jack stepped forward and shut his eyes tight. A blast of water hit him. It did feel kind of like a shower, a strong shower. When Jack was clean, the elephant let out a grunt, and then he started to splash himself with water. "Thanks," said Annie. "Yeah, thanks," said Jack. "I'm spick and span now," said Annie. "When the sun dries me off, I'll be like new." "Good," said Jack. "Now we can get serious." And he picked up his heavy pack. "We have to figure out the answer to the riddle so we can leave this place before we run into real trouble." He looked around nervously. "Where are the lions?" A small bird flitted near his head. "Hi," said Annie to the bird, and Jack turned back to her. "According to the riddle, we're looking for something gold and sweet." "What do you want?" Annie asked the bird, and the bird twittered and flew away. The bird twittered and flew around Jack and Annie. Its feathers were dull gray, but it had a bright and happy manner. "Annie, listen to me." "Not the bird," said Jack. The bird kept fluttering around them. "She's trying to tell us something," said Annie, and Jack let out a long sigh. "Oh, you are driving me crazy today," he said. "But I feel like she needs our help," said Annie. "Maybe her babies fell out of the nest." "Annie, you can't save every animal in Africa," said Jack. "This bird is important," said Annie. "Trust me." And the bird darted towards the trees. It landed on a branch and cocked its head at them. "She says follow," said Annie, and the bird headed into the forest. Annie started after it. "Don't go there," said Jack. "You might run into—" But there was no need to finish. The bird and Annie had disappeared into the trees. "A snake or a lion," said Jack to himself. "Come on," Annie called, and Jack moaned. He pulled on his pack and ran. The peanut butter jar thumped against his back.